Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and it's my pleasure to be introducing Kronos to the industry as our newest global industry partner member, and also Amanda Nichols, who is the Senior Manager of Industry Marketing for Food Service. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, you had mentioned earlier about being an employer of choice. Now, I'm trying to figure out, how does the back office HRIS system, human capital management system, how are you going to impact, how is Kronos going to make somebody or help them to be the employer of choice?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that a lot of our clients, really in all of the industries that we serve, struggle with. With the competition for talent today, you need to put your best foot forward in making sure that you're not only attracting top talent, but retaining them. And we can do that by really looking at what employees really want out of their work life. And one of the number one things that we hear and see is around work-life balance and around scheduling. So there's really two sides to this coin. On one hand, employees want the flexibility so that they can, do a child care drop-off, or they can take care of an elderly parent, or they can go to school, or maybe they have another part-time job. Because employees want to be able to manage all of this, and they need predictability to do that. They need to understand, what their schedule is going to be for the next couple weeks out. On the total opposite side of that coin, with the rise of the gig economy and Uber and all of that, we're seeing a huge demand in the increase for flexibility. So if you have a college age or a high school age employee and they decide on Tuesday that they want to take off Friday night to go hang out with their friends, they want their ability to drop that shift.
Well, so wait a minute. So you're actually bringing up a few points here. So obviously things are changing very rapidly, and you talk about the gig economy that's there now. If you were working in hotels and the gig economy, we might say that in banquet catering and stuff, people move around from one to the other and they just pick up a job. We're starting to see that delivery is such a key area, to the food service industry today, that there are services out there that, again, it's almost like being an Uber or Lyft driver. I need a driver. And there's these pools of people that you can reach out and get to a driver who may not belong to one of the key services out there. So are you able to somehow connect to that feed and request labor, from those things as well?
So we do work with a couple of partners that have that ability. Working sort of with a broader gig economy and having that sort of mentality. We're trying to tap into that mentality when it comes to more traditional scheduling tools.
I'm not saying, by the way, that you have to provide it. It's just you may have to actually tap into those tools that the operator is using.
And if the operator is using those tools, we can absolutely integrate. And I know there are organizations out there that focus on a large shift or a large pool of employees that have been trained to do specific tasks. And we can pull those into our system.
Right. Now, you also started to head down a path. So I get that there's the changing workforce, and you mentioned flexibility and some things like that. But it's not just the workforce either. It's the regulations and the things that are occurring, in different governments and states and things like that. So we're not all experts in this area, but you guys are. So what are you seeing out there that are the things to come that you think that operators need to be prepared for, with solutions, and of course those solutions tie into labor and to what Kronos provides?
Operators are in a tough spot these days. There is a patchwork of legislation going on all throughout the country where some states are very engaged in things like predictive scheduling legislation and joint employment, and other states have decided that that's not something that they're going to touch in this legislative session. And we can't predict the future when it comes to that. We don't know where they're going to go, but what we do know is it's very complicated, and it's only going to get more complicated. Within California specifically, you've got, neighboring cities and neighboring municipalities that have very different versions of predictive scheduling legislation. So if you have if you're a restaurant operator and you've got one restaurant in one location and one restaurant in the other location, you've got to comply with, legislation that is similar but a little bit different. And it's that kind of thing where the devils are in the details, and you need to make sure that you're in compliance in both cities. And then if you're, in California and you're in New York, for example, and then even Philadelphia. Philadelphia recently passed some new predictive scheduling legislation within the city of Philadelphia that's very different from what we're seeing in California and New York. So if you're a restaurant operator that's got restaurants in any of these locations, you need to make sure that you're complying with this, because there are some very steep penalties when it comes to predictive scheduling legislation. And the best solution is to invest in a workforce management tool that can build all of those rules into the system and automate those for operators and managers so they can trust that the system will, execute on the policies that have been implemented.
So I'm not so sure that people fully understand the reach that Kronos has. And what's occurring to me right now is that we are talking now about how do you stay on top of one municipality versus another that are next to each other here. But your reach is not just in the U.S., is it?
Yeah, absolutely not. We are global, have been for quite some time. I think we're in roughly 110 countries, including China. We have a huge market in Australia, huge market in Europe, and quite a big reach down in South America as well.
Is that because your large global enterprise customers took you there, or is that because you saw each market as having their own specific need?
Yeah, a little from column A, a little from column B. As we expanded and grew globally, we went where the opportunity was. But as we got to know that market and that region, we invested in it. We put people on the ground. We built teams that are local
Right.
to that region and have focused on growing those
And you
out.
said about 120 countries?
About 110.
110
roughly.
countries. Sorry. So here's what that brings to mind. So a few things. First of all, it's amazing the number of startups with 3 units, 5 units, or 10 that end up going international, how quick they go, right? Because it used to be only the big people did that. So you have a solution that even a smaller company can go ahead and invest in, that they could sit there and say, don't have to change things up as I go across borders.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I love the most about the restaurant space is you see new concepts coming out and then just, blowing the top off of it. They go from a handful of units to a couple of hundred units very, very quickly. And we love working with smaller organizations like that and smaller restaurants that have those big growth goals and have that potential
Right.
because we can scale with them and we can help support them in that growth, whether domestically or
Right,
internationally.
but it's not just the big guys that can use you, it's the small
Absolutely.
ones too. So the other part of this is that, there's a lot of people that have very specific swim lanes in what they do, whether it's labor scheduling, whether it's, we talked about, talent management, onboarding, we talk about LMS and things like that. But in reality, with the exception of the training systems in the LMS, you really have done specialties in all the areas, so you can be a single solution. But it sounds like also you would have to have that scale, especially because you do payroll, to understand the local labor laws.
Yes,
Which somebody who's
absolutely.
not doing payroll might not stay on top of if they're only doing like labor scheduling or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the local labor laws, can vary dramatically from one location to another. So we've got boots on the ground everywhere, both domestically and internationally, really staying on top of those and understanding them so we can work with our clients to make sure that the system's implemented properly.
Right. Amanda Nichols, welcome to the IFBT. I'm not going to welcome you back to the industry because you started in the industry, right? But it's great to have not only Kronos be a member, but also have your participation as well. And it's a pleasure to meet you today, and it is an honor to really have you join us, as our newest global industry partner member. So thank
We're
you.
thrilled to be here and looking forward to see where the journey takes us.
Great. Well, thank you.